Let me ask you first about two books you wrote. You wrote Acting, Walking the Tightrope of an Illusion, and you wrote a book, Meditation to Blow the Mind. Why did you write these books?
Well, the first book was written, I guess, in response to most acting books. Most acting books are how-to books. Nothing against that. They tell you what to do, step one, step two, step three. And I've been teaching acting for 46 years. And having dealt with hundreds of thousands of actors on all different levels, the how-to doesn't really touch what is really essential in terms of acting technique. Acting technique is not to accumulate superficial knowledge and then apply that superficial knowledge. Real acting technique is understanding oneself and applying that understanding to the text. Yes, it's important to analyze the text in terms of understanding the character, to understand the relationship between your character and the other characters in the play, to understand what it means to have a development in a situation, development of a relationship, a development of a character. That obviously needs to be understood. However, if most of my understanding is that kind of understanding only, it becomes very intellectual. It may sound very knowledgeable and it may be theoretically very correct, but when push comes to shove, when it's time to act, the actor is connected with all of that particular knowledge, and so the acting, while it can look very slick, is really superficial. And so one wants to have the actor go and look in more deeply, because every actor is different, every human being is different. So what really works for one actor will not necessarily work for another actor, because that actor has to understand how to get to their particular temperament, if you will, to understand how to animate themselves in a very subjective way. So that becomes a very slippery slope, because to understand yourself, who is the one who's going to understand himself? The one who is attempting to understand himself is conditioned by the knowledge, and that knowledge will always stay within the parameters of its knowledge, if you will. And so that kind of acting just stays very superficial, and there's nothing of any real depth that can be communicated to an audience. However, when an actor is deeply subjectively involved, then something, you'll forgive the word mysterious, if you will, is communicated. When you watch really fine actors working, it's difficult to figure out exactly what it is that they're doing. You watch them and you say, yeah, there's something alive, there's something going on, and then naturally the mind attempts to label what it thinks is going on with that actor, but you don't really know. So having seen this, it prompted me to produce a book. I can't say that I wrote the book, because really I spoke the book, and there were people that recorded it, edited it, and put it together.
It's really like a study of the class and a transcription of what some of what's transpired.
It's really designed to get the actor to look more deeply It's not a how-to book. That's why there are little stories in there, little jokes, little anecdotes, and the way in which the teacher is talking is really not giving the student any kind of an answer. We're accustomed to asking a question, and then we want someone to supply an answer.
That's why we buy books.
Yes, we buy books and we read tons and tons of books, but nothing radical takes place for the individual. You can read all kinds of books on psychology, on psychoanalysis, on human behavior, and the person essentially hasn't changed. They're pretty much the same, except they have more knowledge and they're more erudite in terms of using that knowledge and linguistically, and you can be very impressed with how much they know. But essentially, in terms of real reality, nothing much has taken place. So the book really is attempting to just get the actor to think a bit and to look a little bit more deeply. Because if you want a how-to book, there are tons of how-to books available. So that book was really designed for that purpose, if you will. It's a very easy read. It's a very fast read because it has all these little stories and situations that the actor can kind of relate to. And if you've taken acting classes, you'll be able to kind of appreciate some of the situations that are in that book. So that pretty much is what prompted me to speak the book, produce the book, if you will.
And I think then the second book, Meditation to Blow the Mind, is sort of surprising because it doesn't seem as much an acting book.
No, Meditation to Blow the Mind is really designed to question very, very deeply what human beings consider to be reality. In acting, obviously there's a playwright, there's a director, there are actors, there's a set. All of this is make-believe. It's all an illusion, if you will. And in spite of that, we have to convince the audience that this is actually really happening. And when actors are really living out the situation, not acting it, but actually living it out, the audience gets the feeling that this is actually happening right now, while understanding that, of course, this is an illusion. Even though it's actually being lived out, it's an illusion. And so Meditation to Blow the Mind is really designed to look much, much more deeply at what we consider to be reality. And it's really only for those individuals that question their own inner state of being and can be very, very, very honest with what is actually going on inside of them. And if you're very honest, you have to begin to see that the conditioning itself has created a lot of suffering. And you can see that in the world. You just turn on your 6 o'clock news and you'll see all kinds of misery, suffering, wars, murder, rape, all kinds of horrible things. Ambition. Some CEO has got his hand in the till, some politician is doing, on and on, I don't have to tell you. And why is that? Why has mankind not learned anything in thousands of years? He hasn't learned anything. He keeps repeating the same mistake over and over and over and over and over again. So the question is, how is it possible to be liberated from my inner turmoil, anxiety, and suffering which exists? And so only very disturbed people would be interested in this book. Disturbed in the sense that they're intelligent enough to realize that they're not really being fulfilled, that they seem to be going in circles over and over.
That's not just actors then. You didn't write this, it sounds like, with actors in mind as a way to advance technique or the art.
It's really for every human being on this planet who really wants to, you'll forgive the cliche, come to the truth. This is not an organized religion. It is not a structure in that respect. It's a meditation. A meditation in this regard is not something that you do. Most of the time when people refer to meditation, they refer to something that they can actually do. But the doer is the problem. The one who is actually attempting to do something is the problem. And the doer doesn't see that the doing and the doer are the same thing. And so a real meditation is the dissolving of the doer doing something. I'm going to analyze myself because I think through analysis I will understand something, but the analyzer is biased as he analyzes. So the analyzer is the analyzed.